we hack the code and flip the tag. Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet. Hey.
Hello, and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom, about conventional wisdom. I'm your host, Kim Miller-Hershon. I am delighted to welcome Kristy Kim today as my guest. And so before we get started, let me just tell you a little bit about Kristy. So Kristy Kim is the founder and CEO of TomoCredit and based in San Francisco. She started the company with a simple concept of no credit score, no problem. She immigrated to the US from Seoul, South Korea, and got rejected from auto loans 5 times. She turned her personal struggles into creating new innovative ways to access creditworthiness of a no file, thin file population. I just love what you've created and what you do. And I can't wait to hear more about it. But before we get to that, Kristy, said obviously you are from Seoul, South Korea. Tell us to begin with about your journey to America, please.
Yeah, so I came to the US when I was only 11 years old, and I think the beauty of that is you are just so open-minded and so positive. So I literally felt nothing but excitement going to America. I didn't feel didn't basically worry about anything. And once I got here, I really enjoyed it because as a child in the US, you get to spend more time outside of your classroom compared to South Korea, at least for me, my case. And I got to just enjoy the new experiment. And then I spent a lot of time outside hanging out, way
All
more
right.
here. I
But
love.
before you get that, tell us, did your whole family come?
Oh, good question. No, I came by myself. So I think that's also very interesting. So I stayed with a host family and in Portland, Oregon. So it was just me by myself and my parents. I think they were worried maybe, but it's fun story is they wanted to check on me, but they couldn't. That back then I didn't have cell phone as an 11 years old, right? There was this pre-iPhone. So she had to, I think, call the school or the host family, but many times I didn't pick up. So they were very worried. But in reality, I was having a lot of fun.
And what was the impetus to send you here in the first place?
I wanted it. I really wanted it. So my parents, mom and dad, they both run their own businesses. So they are small business owners. They travel quite often. And for me as a kid, back then, I remember I had this vision for myself that like, okay, when I grow up, I will travel the world. And then I thought about myself as bringing suitcase and then I travel for work, not for fun. It's funny, but in my mind is traveling for work and look professional. That was appealing to me. So for me, it's okay. I want to experience different culture and then I want to just try new things. I think that was the big thing. Yeah.
It is amazing that your parents are like, okay, you can do that at 11 years old. Sure, move across the world.
Yeah, and then I think probably my parents would thought that just a month or 2 weeks, see how it goes, right? And then I was adjusting way too well. So they are like, okay, you can study there. Versus my younger brother, he didn't like being alone because my case was so easy for them. My younger brother tried it too, but he didn't like it. And for him, he wanted to close to family and wanted to be in South Korea. So for him, he's now in South Korea working in finance. So he did spend some time abroad, but he chose to be in Korea. Yeah.
Right. She's like, I love this life. Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different personalities. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right. So you stayed,
Mm.
right? And you went to college here and graduate school here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And obviously, so I think the other thing that is very interesting about your story is that here it is, you really grew up in America, right? So by the time you were of credit age, like to buy a car, You had been here for, I don't know, probably what, at least 10 years or so, 10, 12 years, right? So the fact that they still saw you as not being credit worthy, right? Talk a little bit about that and what that experience was.
Yeah, that's very interesting part, right? Because when we think about immigrant experience, we think about okay, not being able to speak perfect English or not being able to get a job. That's big things, right? So for me, two things I had in mind is number one, get a job because I wanted to stay in the US like post college. So that means I need to get a job and then I'm a foreigner, so I need a visa. To get a visa, I cannot just join any random company. I should join a good company, right? And
Right.
then also I needed to support myself, so figuring things out. So more, okay, get a job, have your American dream as an adult. That was my first thinking. And second part was obviously, okay, just study hard. Like when you are a kid, so just study hard so you can get a job. Related, but it's more like when you're a student, like studying is your job. So I was like, okay, just work hard. That was the mentality. And then I thought that, okay, I did that. I worked hard as a student. I worked hard to get a job and got a job. And then the part is, oh, okay, I don't have a credit history. But as you mentioned that, but I've been here for a long time. What do you mean I don't have history, right? I contributed to the US economy by paying all the tuition and then buying all the food and etc. So I was like, oh, okay. So it's more like just like a knowledge gap, right? It's like that's like the fact that, oh, okay, if I just opened the credit card when I first came here, or somebody opened it for me as a co-signer or figure, my parents were not here, so I couldn't ask my family, but maybe I could have found someone to maybe help me. So if I had figured it out and knew about it, maybe I would have tried to start the history, get the clock started, right? When I way earlier. But simply because I didn't know and nobody talked about it. Like when I was trying to get my first auto loan to buy a car, that's where, oh, okay, I don't have a credit history. So I think that's what kind of motivated me to start the current company. And then especially with the age of every information is there. But the question is, who's going to ask that question? Do we still expect the people to proactively ask the question? Because for me, I didn't know that I had to ask the question at all. I didn't know what credit score was, credit history. I didn't know the concept. So now that at my current startup, we are focusing on like how can we more be proactive so we can potentially tell customers everything that they should know about. So in that way, we are truly serving them as their AI agent or AI assistant.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. All right. So let me go maybe take take this conversation in a different direction. You especially rate the work hard, get good grades, get a good job, right? That is part of the American dream, American like conventional wisdom,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, what is one piece of conventional wisdom that you followed early on to realize later on that it just was not right for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the conventional wisdom of work hard, right? Work hard and everything will figure itself out. I think that's completely wrong, right? I think it's more about be smart, right? I think be smart and know the system so you can thrive within the system. I think it goes to the personal credit score and also business credit score as well if you're a business owner because and tax saving because in the US somebody told me that if you're a business owner that's the best for your tax saving as a LLC and etc. I didn't know about it when I was young, right? Because before we just think that, oh, just like work hard, get the job, 9 to 5, maximize a paycheck, right? And then
Right.
okay, now I think everyone realizing that conventional wisdom is wrong. It holds some truth to it, but now that the world is so dynamic, they're like being smart and then know the industry, having the right information matters more.
Yeah, I think I really like what you have to say about, first of all, you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That's number one. But I think the figure out what's right for you really resonates for me. Not everybody is built to be an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I think the risk and it feels more than the reward, or somebody who has a hard time with structure. Or the other thing that I like to say when I'm coaching people, which scares people, but it really is true, which is that if you can't sell, or
Mm,
you can't bring somebody in to sell, you
mm,
do not have a business,
mm.
right? Business is commerce, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's a lot of people are like, I do not want to have to sell, right? Until I can afford to find somebody else to sell for me. Or it's just I want a steady paycheck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But thank God that is not the right thing for everybody, because then we get people like you who are innovators and solving real problems.
Yeah, and then in the age of AI, I think what you mentioned really resonate, and then it's more important, especially these days, because with AI, it's so easy to build, like web product, digital product, so easy to build. But as you mentioned, if you cannot sell or don't know who to sell to, then you don't have a business. You have
Right.
amazing product, looks
Right.
great, right? But if you are not making money from it and you don't know how to make money, then it's not a business. That's more like your AI project. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think maybe just the other thing, I think it's you become a mission driven company
Mm,
when you are solving pain
mm,
that you've experienced,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And really you don't know what you don't know, and there are so many people out there that don't understand credit, right? Even
Hmm.
in this day and age. Christy, this is the craziest thing. So we're in 2026. So in I think it was actually 1976 or in the 70s, maybe it wasn't 76. I could be making that up. But in the 70s was the first time that women could open their own credit cards. Like,
Mm.
how crazy is that? That's probably not during your lifetime, but it's during my lifetime.
Yeah.
That that is nutso bananas.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like so interesting, right? Because back then that was a norm, that was a system, right? And then you fit into the system. And then for a long time, okay, you have to have certain credit score. That's the norm, right? And then now with additional data, what we really focus on is, yeah, if you don't have good credit history like me, if you were immigrant, then show me some alternative data points. Show me you have a job, show me you have bank account, show me you have additional money sitting in your bank account, then that data set we can use. So maybe before the conventional way is, oh, if you don't have a X score, it's a non-starter, right?
That's
But
right.
now I think we are slowly shifting to, okay, you don't have this score, you don't fit this mold, then let's see what you got. I think that's what we've been working on for the past 7 years, right? We started back in 2019. We were the only company who are like crazy enough to say, hey, no credit score, no problem, still come to us. Let's see what you got. Let's see your true worthiness, right? So in that way, we make our consumers not feel bad about themselves, right? And then actually focus on what they got going on that's really going well for them, right? Because somebody has no credit history, but maybe making really good income, whether it's through the paycheck or through his own LLC business and is growing. And that's amazing data point that we can use, right? So what
Right.
we focus on right now is how do we best understand the individual unique situation of our individual consumers and package it up and then create an alternative amazing scorecard next to their credit score and then present to the lenders. So auto lenders or mortgage companies and all that can use that additional signals coming from us.
Right. Ugh, just love this. Love it. All right. So you've been in the business world for a while, you have the successful startup. What is one thing that people look at you on the outside and they're like, oh, Christy's got this all figured out. And on the inside, you still wrestle with it.
Still wrestle with it. I think probably people, I assume, I'm just guessing that people like to know me through the work, right? They might have think that, oh, Christy figured this out because she has been doing it for 7 years. She figured it out, like at least like the product market fit in some sense that, oh, she knows exactly who need her product and what product can help, right? But in reality, I think that even changes every single year because it depends on the market landscape, right? Because as I mentioned, when I started back in 2019, it was original and it was like our independent thinking, original idea, the way how we designed the product. And then also, there's nothing to copy. If I had something to copy at that time, I was thinking that I will just invest in a company. I will just find a
Right.
startup who's working on this, I will invest and then just watch it on the sideline and safer, right? But I couldn't find anything. That's what made me actually start the company. So for me, when I started it, we were the only crazy one in the market. And in the past 6 to 7 years, thanks to us, kudos to us, and kudos to also the world changing. Now more companies are getting into this alternative data point. More lenders want to participate. So this becomes a real lucrative market. And then there we have more competition. And then that means that, okay, where do we focus more and more, right? Because the broad mission was always the same. High level goal is always the same. But when it comes to how do we win the market and win the market share, I think we have to refine it every single year.
And I think that is the hallmark
Yeah.
of a really smart business woman, right? Business person is that you don't rest on your laurels. You don't be like, okay, we got this figured out. Now we just need to just keep going. Because I would say maybe there are markets where that is the case. But
Yeah.
with AI, we know that is not the case right now, right? And here's the thing, everybody thinks they're an expert now,
True.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I need to tell you, this is a really fun story, right? So when ChatGPT announced their personal finance, like ChatGPT Finance, it's only 2 months ago. I think everybody had a minor panic that, okay, does that mean that all these startups are gonna be out of business? Why do we even need to exist? And then after testing it out and then hearing from what people say, the conclusion is that, okay, bottom line, consumers don't really use it, the first part. And then the pocket of users who used it in the Bay Area, they are like high income customers mainly. And then one of my colleagues, she used to work at Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley all and the top financial firms. So
Mhm.
she's basically said this, and it really stuck with me. She said, yeah, imagine that OpenAI engineers sitting in this nice office, looking over the Bay Bridge, looking over the water, and then building the financial solution for them.
Right.
It's like investment focused or savings focused versus we know from the data that customers are like struggling or have 6 to 7 derogatory marks on their credit report. And I'm like, wait, seven? It cannot be seven, right? How can you have delinquency on 7 accounts at any given moment? But in reality, people do that. And then delinquent amount can be just $10 or
Right.
$50, right? So I think conceptually people do think they understand what paycheck to paycheck is, but in reality, it's very interesting because it's not literally like you are spending up the whole entire paycheck in one go or one bank account. It can be multiple bank account, and they're trying to leverage it. They try to borrow here and pay back here, borrow here, pay back here. So my mentality is that consumers are right. We cannot fix the behaviors. I don't like the approach where companies say, oh, we are gonna try to train them to change their behavior. But I'm like, no, I think I should respect their behavior, and consumers are smart and savvy. Many times they do certain things because there are reasons why they do it that way. Then for us is like, how do we best support them and then fitting into their current behaviors instead of expect them to change drastically. Yeah.
Right. And that feels, I think the other thing is too, is that also feels to me very respectful. I am one of those people who probably there is nothing that will, there are probably a lot of things that make me mad, but there is nothing that
Yeah.
somebody says that will make me madder than, oh, I'm the adult in the room. It is the most disrespectful thing
Uh,
that you can say in a room of adults, right? Who
right.
did made you God, right?
Yeah.
Like what made you better than anybody else in this room? That is super presumptuous. And yeah, and like I said, and unbelievably disrespectful and you can tell me you think you're the adult in the room. We know who is, I won't say it out loud, but we know who
Yeah,
the
yeah,
right the person is. Yeah.
yeah,
So I love the respect that you have for people. And also too, here's the other thing. People are also responsible for their own behavior,
yeah. Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Not your responsibility to fix their behavior unless somebody's asking, right? That's different. But coming from a place of we're here to help you go from where you are to get more of what you want. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's what's very interesting is one, personal finance is very similar to even working out for your health. It's not like one size fits everyone, right? There are so many good things you can do and so many bad things you can do. So for personal finance, if I use my example, so I didn't have any credit score. So once I realized that, okay, how should I build credit score? So back then, the option that was presented to me was, okay, maybe open a secured credit card. So you deposit some money and get a lower line of credit and then use it and then build it up. It's a slow process and didn't really fit my profile because I didn't have to borrow a small dollar amount.
Right.
But did that just for the sake of building credit. So I was doing that. And then once I built a good score, I kept making minor mistakes. And then that's because I am messy person compared to super OCD. OCD and messy, I'm very close to more messy. I'm not OCD. So that means that I know the big stuff. I know big stuff like the housing cost, whether it's rent or a monthly home payment and things like that, if you're an owner. So I think I know all the big stuff and I know like my income and all the big stuff in my mind. Important stuff, I know it, but some small stuff I sometimes miss it. And when I travel, sometimes I miss this minor bills and I just didn't get it. So I didn't know. And then these things make my credit score go down. I realized that no matter how small the amount is, whether it's $3, $30, or $30,000, if it's delinquent, and then that record can survive
Mhm.
7 years.
Okay, because you and I are both on the west coast of
Yeah,
the west
yeah,
coast of the United States. Can we just have a moment for getting a mark against your credit to have a late payment because you paid on the day that it was due, but you didn't hit the East Coast deadline,
oh,
right?
possible, yeah,
Yeah, and then they say that you paid it, let's say, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night, like California time.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they're like, the cutoff was 8 o'clock East Coast time, right? So you had to make
Right.
that payment by 5 in the afternoon. And then they report it to the credit report. I paid on the day. What are you talking about? Okay, sorry, I'm done.
But that's like a great, amazing story, right? Billions of the stories from customers, right? I'm like, yes, the record is not a true reflection of who you are because in reality, you have no problem paying that $30 or $50. You have money in your bank account, you can pay that, right? So I think as we use more like AI and data, my hope is that even these institutions, I think they will have more flexible way to be
Right.
able capture the right signals instead of just use too simple of a rule that, oh, cut off, you're late, it's going to be reported in 7 years. That's too simplistic way. And then that doesn't serve consumers. And also it's not good for, in my opinion, to lenders either. Because lenders want to have a true picture anyway. Because once lenders know about your story, they're like, oh yeah, Kim, come back. I want you to be my customer, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. What's your biggest leadership or management challenge right now in your business? So you've been doing this for 7 years.
I'm trying to learn how to be softer, so- softer energy of a leader. And the reason why I'm saying that is I have learned a lot from people around me. For example, my board members, like investors, like mentors. And I find it fascinating that because before I was not mimicking someone in the very beginning, but I think just by nature, it's like my dad and me, we have same personality. I feel like for us, is like we are like what's the right high energy, and we can be very hot, very kind of driving energy. Maybe more towards the aggressive type, but it's coming from the good place, right? It's coming from the good place at the end of the day because everyone is working towards the same goal, but I think I have more on the aggressive side of it. And then I thought about it. Why is that? It's like maybe part of it is okay, being Korean, because as you know that in East Asian culture, Korea and Japan, etc., we work a lot. So for me, I was more like working a lot, it's guaranteed, and then what's more, that kind of mentality. And maybe I was expecting a lot from my team members as well. And
Sure.
so I think what I learned is it's all about how you manage when things don't go the way you want, especially to individual relationship with the team members. Because that's like where you can come across as, hey, you are wrong, you did it wrong, or I need you to fix. Or the other way. I think you can be still firm but you can be softer. I think that's what I have seen from others. And then I'm thinking, how do I adopt that? One example is like former executive at American Express. I had an honor to get to know him really well. And then he would even give me feedback or anyone feedback that can be very firm or very just no BS, but the way how he presented is very loving and very kind.
Mm,
So I'm like,
right.
that's like next level. That's the next level thing. I hope I can get
Right.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is something I think to be said about kind of understanding how to read people and then give the feedback how they will most readily receive it,
Mm,
right? And
mhm.
it can be subtle, but also there's a skill to understanding that. And I
Yeah.
think, like, I know with my team that I have three people on my team, and I give each of them feedback in very different ways
Oh.
because they have different personalities and they receive it differently. And it's very, yeah, it's super interesting stuff, right? But at the end of the day, Kristy, wouldn't you agree? It really is about performance, but honestly, it is also about like you're driving towards a result, right? Like an outcome. And like everybody's got to be on they got to be on the same boat, right? Going in the same direction. And I think there is something about being softer
Mm,
sometimes,
mm,
right?
mm.
Because sometimes if you're too soft, people understand, right? Some people need softer feedback, but some people, if you're too soft or you're not direct enough, they don't actually hear the message,
Yeah,
right?
that's a very good point. Yeah, so it's more like how do you still being true to yourself? Because as you mentioned, right? Because by nature I'm soft in a way, but if I'm like performing the softness, maybe then I'm missing the point. I might maybe miss the core message of it.
Uh-huh.
So it's more like understanding what I'm naturally more lean towards to, but try to minus the potential side effect of just not adjusting to them, right?
Yeah, yeah. As somebody who has fairly good direct communication skills, here's the thing, and I work on it all the
Yeah.
time. But you know what? You can also occasionally still lose it, right? Occasionally you're just like, okay, evidently all that good training went out the window, and I
Mhm.
am just mad, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everybody is going to know it. And then afterwards you're like, "Oh, ouch."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that's was the part. So one thing that at least that I think I'm getting better at is like fingers crossed, but I think I'm getting better at in the past 7 years at least is that I remember one of my former colleague, he was fresh out of college, but one time he says something that, yeah, I feel like I think we were watching Inside Out or some movie and then we were debriefing about it after the lunchtime. And then he was saying something like, yeah, anger is really just like you burn the house down, right? Like anger is just like you burn everything down and then there's no good comes out of it, right? So I think that was very interesting for me to hear, right? Because that's actually true. Because after you burn it, then you burn yourself, you exhaust your energy, and then you are like, or maybe burn someone's feelings, and it's not because so it's more yeah, I don't want to burn, even though I'm not happy here, I don't want to burn the whole thing. So it's now like, how do I know that it's net negative and how do I channel it to more productive? One trick that I learned is when I'm so mad, try to just not react at all and then leave the situation a little bit. Then at least next day, maybe I'm still mad, but not as a burning mad.
Yeah,
Right.
there you go. There's
Yeah,
a great endorsement. Mad,
yeah,
but not burning mad.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
going to burn
yeah,
down the house, but right.
yeah,
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 love
yeah.
that. All right, what's one unconventional habit or mindset shift that's helped you grow your business?
Unconventional mindset. Yes. So I love the book Shoe Dog from like Nike founder because I'm
Mm,
a runner. I since I was young, like I really liked running, like running track and etc. So for me, when I read his book, like I think something really clicked. Also, the some chapters that he went through, the beginning journey and beginning struggles were very like I could almost pick the examples like one to one. So it
mm,
was so interesting for me. So I listened to it over and over again. It became my Bible in some sense. Because any problem I find or any events I find, I can make a parallel comparison to it. So
mm,
I thought that. So on that part, I always feel like you you can only appreciate it or like when the time passes. All the struggles
mm.
I thought about, right? Like when but let's say we're in a good season or hard season. If it's a hard season, it's hard. But when you go like, a couple of years later, you will look back in a more appreciation and then you will still find some joy out of it. So for me, I always feel like, okay, conventional way is that, okay, I always try to be like in a want it to be in a good situation and good days, but I realized that, hey, there's no really good or bad. It's just a part of the process. And one moment you will feel pain, one moment you will feel happiness, and just like all mixed together. But as long as I keep showing up, and then later I can look back on it and say, you know what, that was really nice. Because for me, that's how I think a lot these days is no matter what happens, business become $1 trillion, $1 billion, or nothing. I feel like no matter what, the value of the work and energy and hurt that I put in is it's there. It's valuable no matter what happens, right? Of course, if the best of the best outcome, then it gets more external, maybe external right? Just like approval, maybe external, okay, you did a good job, right? But I know that as a runner, you run faster, you run slower, but nobody really knows but you at the end. So I feel like what's really important is at the end, I know that how much heart and soul my team put in, I put it. So I feel like no matter what, it's always success for us.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one thing that you said, which really resonates with me, is you got to keep showing up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think that is one thing. I don't know if it's really an American thing, like only an American thing or not, but this idea of gratification, or we have such unrealistic idea of this idea of overnight success,
Mm,
right? I have a great idea and it should make me a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire. And if it doesn't do that in the first year, then I'm done, right?
yeah.
And so, this idea of really having tenacity, showing up for yourself and your team, and not somebody said something so interesting to me the other day, which it really I've thought about a bunch, is that listen, I don't know Jeff Bezos, right? I don't know anybody who knows Jeff Bezos, but this guy that I was talking to, his external, like his evaluation of Jeff Bezos is that his self-worth is tied into his business success,
Mm,
right? And this guy's evaluation of Jeff Bezos was it's never enough. Like his entire self-esteem is about making money, right? So he just keeps like that's maybe what drives him. But I do think it's interesting if you can't separate who you are as a person from your what happens externally, right? If it's all just about what happens externally, then you're just missing such an important kind of piece of who you are.
Yeah, I think so. The external validation is the, I think, word that I was like looking for, right? So
Yeah,
for me, I think I appreciate the fact that I think my parents never really made me feel like, oh, I need to be successful, or because I think many times people think that, oh yeah, my parents must wanted you to high achieve in the US because you're by yourself, or maybe they wanted you to go to US. No, my parents wanted me to just have a happy life, live right next to them, and play golf with them every day. And then they would just get married and have kids, and then we can play golf every summer or every weekend. Right? So I think they always felt like, okay, I'm enough just to be their daughter, and I'm just enough to just pursue my own selfish happiness is enough, right? But it's so funny that your child maybe never listened to you, because for me it's like the opposite, that I self really sick that okay, but I want to see what's out there. I want to achieve more and more. And my dad always telling me that yeah, like you don't have to continue. You don't have to continue to like drive to achieve, whether it's a not for my current company, just in general,
right,
that you don't have to feel like you have to keep working. You can always take a break, or you can take an easier job. So I think hearing that, I maybe made me feel like I don't, I'm already validated by them. So I don't really need
right, right.
additional, yeah.
And what an incredible gift, right? I think that is such an important thing to be like, I'm enough, right? I'm special because I'm me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then go from there, right? And then all the things, right? Work smart and you end up working hard too, but realize that smart is important and you're solving good problems, hard problems for people, and you're really making lives better, right? And but really, if you think about it, Christy, and I don't want to get too philosophical here, but I think about this about coaching as well and people who do important things for people. You are coming in when they're actually not being validated. When somebody is actually saying to them, you may be personally enough, but you're not credit worthy enough, right? So you can't have that car, you can't have that house. Forget buying. You can't have, because you can't pass the credit check, you can't rent that apartment, right? So it's not just about are you ready to buy a house, but these are impediments to the fundamental things that we need in our lives. And you are coming into people's lives at that time and saying, you are enough, right? And here's a way to solve that problem. And that's not nothing, right? In addition to the fact that I really do, there is a butterfly effect
Mm.
around this, right? And I think that's what feels so important about this because you are not just solving this for whoever you are solving it for. Because once they solve that, then they get to pass that on to their kids, right? And then it becomes a non-issue, right? And you created that. You put that in the world. That's something, right?
Yeah, definitely. I want people to feel like they are good. So system hasn't figured out how to understand you yet, but you are good, right? I think that's the feeling. Make people feel more empowered, right? And then that's
That's
also
right.
in the long run, that's what motivate people to make behavior changes when it comes to fundamentally changing the habits or behavior. Coming from positive place, people tend to change better.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, Christy, what a fun conversation we've had today. Friends, you have been listening to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. I'm your host, Kim Miller-Hershon. You have listened to Kristy Kim of TomoCredit. We will have the link to her company in the show notes. So please check it out. And what I would say to you is if it's not something that you need, pass it on to somebody who does, right? Because I think we all know that person, right? And then for me, I would love it if you would subscribe to my newsletter. It has one thing in it for you to do and lots of good tools once a week. And so that would be a great way to support me aside from listening to the podcast, which you are already doing. So love that. Thank you. So, friends, go out there and be a better human.
Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet.